The Pat Kenny Show on News Talk.
With Mater Private Network. During current restrictions, don't ignore your health concerns. Our expert team is ready to help.
But let's go to the Lord Mayor of Cork, Councillor Colm Kelleher. Lord Mayor, good morning.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Colm, it's unusual to hear a politician talking about something like this. It's the kind of conversation that hasn't often been had. Tell us a little bit about your brother.
Yeah, so look, my brother, Don Kelleher, my big brother, he was, as a child growing up, he was always there to protect me and mind me when I was a young fella, and I always kind of looked up to my big brother. Unfortunately, he lost his way in his adolescence. He turned to drugs, he turned to soft drugs at the start, and that progressed continuously until he eventually he started using heroin. And it was very hard for, I suppose, us as a family to acclimatise to, because we'd never seen anything like this before, and in particular my parents. But, he, thankfully he's turned his life around, and he's embarked on a new business venture yesterday.
And that's quite the journey he's been on. And we'll get to the business in just a minute. But what impact did it have, not just on Don, who clearly had a massive impact, but on the wider family, the type of battles that are going on across Ireland today as families deal with a loved one who, as you say, has lost their way?
Yeah, look, it had a detrimental effect on our family. For, I suppose, a prolonged period of time, it was a kind of a family secret, a source of shame. We tried to hide it. In particular, my mother and my father, and in particular, my very late grandmother. My late grandmother, she was a business person inside in Cork City, but it was a sense of shame to her, and sadly she died with all of this going around, so she never got to see Don, come full circle. But, this effect that drugs and alcohol and gambling has across all aspects of society, it has a detrimental effect not only on the individual that are dealing with the addiction, but the family that are there to support them.
What did it mean for you, Colm? Because you speak about Don as if he was the guy you went to when you were in trouble, or if there was someone been mean to you when you were a kid, you turned to him as your big brother. What did it mean for you to look at him and see the challenges that he had found himself in? Was there a sense of helplessness in any way?
Yes, completely. It was heartbreaking. You're looking at, your big brother, traditionally, the kind of, big brother figure that would mind you and put his arm around you if you were, upset or stuff like that. And then it kind of got to a stage where he was no longer that individual. It was a kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde moment, if I'm to be fair. And it's devastating because you try to help, you try to reach out. But, sadly at that point in time, Don didn't realise that he was sick and didn't realise that there was a problem there and didn't want to take help from either me as his brother or any other member of my family or any other member of society for that matter. Everyone was wrong except Don, and that seems to be, I suppose, the common narrative of individuals dealing with addiction. Unless they get to a point where they accept that they have a problem, there's no helping them,
You talked about the challenge for the family. You used the word shame, I think, to describe it, that this was a shame on the family. And I'm conscious that there are so many people who are listening right now who would be in a similar situation to what the Kelleher family found themselves in, that they feel as if they are dealing with the shame. How have we reached that point in society?
I think it's a kind of a taboo subject that hasn't been spoken for a long, long time, spoken about correctly for a long time. It's kind of been swept under the rug. And it was a source of shame to my family. But, in hindsight now and looking back on it, we've nothing to be ashamed of at all. Don was sick. And, I suppose the fact that us as a family hadn't dealt with something like that before, we were unaware of how to deal with it. So, the typical Irish response, bury your head in the sand and, hope it will go away. It had a detrimental effect on our family. And I know that any families out there this morning or this afternoon or this evening for that matter that are struggling with a loved one with addiction, there's no reason in the God earthly world why you should be ashamed. You shouldn't hang your head in shame. You should hang your head high and proud of that family member and know that they're on a journey. They just may be at the end of it, the start of it, or the middle of it, but they are on a journey.
We aren't very good at helping on that journey, though. One of the most consistently underfunded things in this country are treatment addiction programs. That's a black hole that isn't filled for a variety of different reasons, most likely because people don't want to help that much. It's seen as a personal struggle as opposed to a societal struggle. I mean, do we need to do more for addiction services and helping people who are struggling with addiction?
Definitely. I think, look, in relation to society as a whole, like if we expect people with drug or alcohol or gambling problems to accept that they have a problem and to seek help, then society needs to be mature enough to have a conversation about the solutions that we need to be put in place to help them, whether that be legislation at a national level. We need to start having the conversation about addiction and how we deal with it. We will have, treatment centres that are underfunded, as you said, for a number of years now, and waiting lists. What we have now isn't working, and doing nothing isn't an option. As a society, we need to grow up and we need to have a conversation about drugs because it's having a devastating impact across all families. Not only locally here in Cork, but across the state as a whole. Something that, I suppose the reason why I spoke out in this, Jonathan, yesterday was I was on my way into City Hall and I got a text from my brother Don and a picture of a vacant shop unit. And he just says, I'm going to, with a caption underneath it, I'm going to take a chance. So it nearly brought tears to my eyes because to see him go from, the full circle, to go from the vices of this scourge. I've seen my brother Don with a needle in his arm, and foam coming out of his mouth. And that's not a lie. And I know some people may say, that's crazy, but I've seen it. And it's heartbreaking to see a loved one, and that you're helpless to help them at that point in time. But to get that text yesterday from Jonathan, it brought a tear to my eye. And, it's something that, I'm very proud of him. And I know, as you mentioned at the start of the conversation there, it's not something that politicians would do lightly. Obviously, I'm Lord Mayor of Cork. I have a great respect for this office. I'm honoured to be Lord Mayor of Cork. But, I think that the onus is on me as first citizen of Cork City to highlight this issue and to give the people, that are struggling with addiction. I was elected by the good people of the Cork City South West Ward to represent them. I'm now elected as first citizen of Cork City to represent every member of the city and society and city as a whole. But there's people out there, people with drug issues and people with alcohol dependency and gambling addiction. They don't vote, and they don't have a voice. But I don't care if they don't vote. I'm going to use my position as Lord Mayor of Cork to give those people a voice because they need a helping hand. And anything I can do through the office of Lord Mayor to do that, I will be more than happy to do so.
We have to ask what business Don is embarking upon. There's a shop unit. He's doing something. Presumably, is it under wraps, or can you tell us what he's doing?
Well, if there's any wholesale suppliers on the country there now, you want to give him my number, I can put him in touch with Don. He's going into antique furniture. Antique furniture,
right? Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, look, and look, he's really turned his life around. He's had a baby boy a couple of months ago. They named him Danny, and it's been the making of him, to be quite honest with you.
And how is he about you talking about all of this, Colin? Because again, it's that word that hangs over as like a cloud, shame. Is he comfortable with you going out and telling his story in the hope that it might connect with other families and indeed other addicts?
100%. Look, before I suppose all of this broke, and I was in the Irish Examiner, it broke yesterday, and when I gave the interview, I spoke with Dan and I asked, was he all right with it? And I also spoke with members of my family and obviously asked if they were all right in this, because it's not only myself I'd be putting in the spotlight, it'd be them as a whole. And he was very supportive of it. My brother Don was also a victim of sexual abuse by the hands of a teacher in national school. And we didn't, as a family, didn't find that out very late until Don was about 17 or 18, and he broke down and he told us. Well, subsequently, there was a case brought against that teacher, and he was convicted. And Don waived his anonymity. And I thought it was, I suppose when you're trying to piece it together as a family and you're trying to put all the parts of the jigsaw together, at certain points in time, and Don started lashing out and rebelling against society, we didn't understand why. And then, in hindsight, when you find out the abuse he suffered, it kind of says, well, you know, it's not a 100% excuse for what happened, but you can see the correlation and how it makes sense and how he rebelled against authority and stuff like that. Like, it happened to him in fourth class, and to keep from fourth class up until he was 17 years of age, that's a big secret to keep for any man, especially a man who's dealing with addiction.
Look, we wish him the very best of luck. He sounds like a very strong character to have dealt with what he dealt with, and now to be opening an antique shop and to be the pride of the family, which is where he should be, and another generation coming through behind. Colm Kelleher, what do you say finally to the families who are listening right now, who are where your family once was, feeling that hope, that shame? What do they and what should they do today?
Well, it's not shame, and don't treat it as such. You know, there is help available, whether it be the next door neighbour, whether it be a family member, whether it be a public official. As Lord Mayor of the city, my door is open to every single person within Cork City. If they have an issue, contact me and I will help them in any way I can in my capacity as Lord Mayor. But if they feel that they don't want to go down, I suppose, a kind of unofficial avenue, talk to their brothers, talk to their sisters, talk to their mothers, talk to their teachers, their guidance counsellors. There's help available. And it is a sickness. And I believe as a society, the sooner we start treating it as a sickness and not criminality, you know, we will be going in the right direction. But I think it's, you know, I'm delighted to have hopefully started the conversation on it.
Okay. Lord Mayor of Cork, Councillor Colm Kelleher, thanks very much for joining us on the Pat Kenny Show. This is Jonathan Healy in for Pat. Stay with us.